as the panel, we want to challenge around the definition and our understanding of what financial inclusivity is all about. We want to challenge around how to design for inclusivity by being intentional and deliberate to design for inclusivity, whether you are in financial sector or not. We also want to talk about, how do you take some of the capabilities that are unique to your space? In our space, credit management is quite unique. How do you also take something like that people don't have an intimate relationship with, and use it as a tool to drive inclusivity? So with that said, in our world as NEDBANK, our purpose is to be financial experts who do good for our families, communities, clients, stakeholders, and the country overall. Hence, we saw the importance of sitting here today, engaging in this discussion around what's the role that financial sector can play in driving financial inclusivity. You look at a lot of studies and researches that are done, right? And financial inclusivity looks at, do you have a bank account? And in our view, that's a limited definition of financial inclusivity. What can you do with your account? What does it give you access to? What does it help you build? Where is it taking you as a person? We see financial inclusivity as a sense of belonging. Do I feel I have a sense of belonging when I hold your account? We see it as as a means to an end, not necessarily the end goal. It permeates in our day-to-day lives. How does it enable you to achieve your goals and the dreams that you have? It's about being seen. Do you see me as who I am? And are you willing to serve me as I am? And what do you do to ensure and enable that you serve me as I am? So those are some of the topics that my awesome panelists here will be helping us to unpack and to discuss. And there's also a big concept of trust. I think we spoke about trust in the morning. Financial inclusivity is around, do customers or clients have the trust that you have their best interests at heart? And we know people's relationships with banks. We're actually joking about it to say they trust us to keep the money safe, but they don't think when we give them loans, we have their best interests at heart. It's quite an interesting, discussion. Someone said they trust your intent, but they don't necessarily trust your service. And, to reflect a lot around it. And we believe the conversation today will get us to think differently around how we approach and we drive, financial inclusivity. It's about the language that you use. It's about how you present information. It's about who you show when you advertise. It's a broad spectrum of things that drives financial inclusivity. It's around representation. When you sit there, do I feel represented? Do I feel included? It's around the psychological safety of talking about money. We'll get to talk about it. We did financial index monitor where we were trying to understand the financial health of South Africans. One of the key aspects that came out is people feel ashamed to talk about money. They feel it's a taboo, it's something that they cannot talk about. How do we make sure that financial inclusivity make talking about money as easy as talking about, okay, in this room you don't talk about mjolo. I don't know what to talk about in this room. It's as easy as talking about rugby. It's as easy as talking about, the key things that are important in your lives. So with that said, and the context, Bridget, can I start with you, right? To say, designing for inclusivity, it's around being intentional and deliberate on how you design. So can you maybe just give us some thoughts around when you design solutions for consumers, what do you think about, what do you consider, what are the challenges, and what are the leaders in this room in here need to consider to ensure that we design for inclusivity?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Lizzie, and I think good afternoon, everybody. I'm really honored to sit here and share with you. So from a NEDBANK perspective, we have adopted what we call client-centered design, CCD, and I think most in this room, and I heard earlier references made to design thinking. So we've adopted design thinking. Obviously, what is design thinking? This is a human-centered approach that puts the client in the driving seat of innovation. So that is actually kind of the building block or the fundamentals that we focus on. So in the process of design thinking, or how we go about creating propositions for clients, and I'm talking about a scenario where at that point you've already made a conscious decision from a strategy perspective in terms of what are your target segments or where will you play. So when you get into that design thinking mode, some of the key components that we need to make sure that we tick off, the first and important one is around client desirability. So really in client desirability, you're looking at, do customers like what you're putting forth? What are the jobs to be done? What are the pain points? What are the needs and pain points that you're solving for that client? So you go through a rigorous process, through insights, testing, engaging with the customer, just to tick off that desirability. But the job doesn't end there. There's still two components that you need to tick off. The next component is around feasibility. Can the systems and the way you are set up be able to deliver the solution? And I think in feasibility, some of the key things that we embark on and make sure we do very well is make sure that we test quickly and very cost effective. So that is one of the key components around feasibility. The third component in how we journey, in terms of making sure that we create and deliver meaningful propositions is around financial viability. So can we afford this? So I think that is a critical component. So you have to go through all the cost-benefit analysis to ensure that, can you afford this proposition? And I think you asked a question around, what are the challenges? I think you hear from the three things that I've mentioned that one of the key challenges is really around ensuring that when you're going through the client desirability process, that you're really addressing the core needs of the majority. So I think that is one of the key components. And I think the other challenge is also ensuring that you're striking a balance between desirability, what is desirable, what is feasible, and what you can afford. But ultimately, I think the key thing is to make sure that whatever you present out in the market is not just led by what your systems can manage and what you can afford, but you tick off a holistic elements around desirability, feasibility, and financial viability.
Awesome, thanks for that. Talking about those three things, and we'll come back to them, especially around desirability versus what you can afford. To say, what does that mean when we talk inclusivity? Tracy, I would also like to bring in here, as someone who designed for private clients and small businesses, what do you bear in mind to ensure inclusivity? We know a lot of them talk about banks don't want to lend to small businesses. What do you consider in mind? And what are some of the small business owners in the room? We were talking about side hustles. Need to consider also around participating and engaging in financial solutions.
Cool. Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to chat to you. Thanks, Lizzie. So the space that I would be solving for is private clients. So your affluent South African, your young professional, your medical professional, your non-residents, but also small businesses. So think about when you are wanting to separate from your personal banking and now you perhaps want to register, and that basket of services that we would typically offer. And we look at under 30 million turnover. So I think we've been through hell as a country going through COVID, and more recently we're dealing with a kind of stagnant small business market. So what we see from a banking sector is a lot of businesses starting, a lot of businesses perhaps pivoting, restarting, and those early stages of business are so important. So as a bank, what role could we play, and what role are we playing, is certainly in taking some of the cost and admin and pain out of starting a business. So we have, for example, a 6-month free startup bundle, and it's not just about a free monthly fee, it's about all those things that we think that you need to do in starting up a business. So the cost is not something that you're worried about. So separate from your individual banking, start your separate business, whether you're registered or not, it doesn't matter. And if it's a new business to NEDBANK, it's a single director, you qualify via a digital process, which also takes all the cost away from the bank and allows us to deliver card-free, and we're talking about that commercial viability. How do we make it better for you to start and also more cost-effective for the bank to deliver? We will also make sure that, starting a business is very daunting. Certainly in the bank, this is considered low complexity. But for a client, I'm sure you can appreciate, this is massive complexity. Entering a world of, should I register, shouldn't I register? What are the tax implications of not registering or registering? Do I need to get into kind of merchant services, e-commerce? How do I get clients? How do I put myself in a marketplace? So we understand that, not every bank is going to be equipped fully to answer those questions for you. We have a platform called Simply Biz. We have an essentials guide, which deals with some of the basics. And I think we're also talking about how intimidating money is. Well, certainly when you get into a business context, it's very intimidating, no matter what your qualification or your background is. So making services free, it doesn't matter if you're a NEDBANK client or not, putting a lot of information out there on financial ratios, and also free services, for example, typically new businesses will operate off a spreadsheet. You don't have money for accounting package, you're not interested in a professional, those dollar-based accounting providers are not really what you need. So we've developed something called Money Tracker, where you can take your statements, classify your income and expenses, and get a kind of net understanding of where your position is separate from your personal account. So again, figuring out what the conflict is for the customer, how do we utilize our own knowledge and services to be good for that customer in a commercially viable way that works for the bank and works for the customer, and then knowing that from a small business perspective, probably 60% of those startups are going to drop off at some point, and 40% are actually going to pass that 6-month period. So those are the things we need to monitor as a bank to say, is that still relevant? How long does it take to get turnover going? How do we put more support in place for small businesses? Whether it's education support, whether it's deals, Avo business to business, you can actually turn your business into an e-commerce store, all those services are plugged in there. So how do we actually share that information and make sure we grow the confidence of the business owner that ultimately grows their business, employees, and so on and so on. We know that's what we ultimately want for the country.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Tracy, because you talk a lot about democratization, right? How do you ensure that when you design, there are some things that your clients can access easily at no cost, understanding the cost pressures that everyone is facing and is around, and also understanding the pain points. I think you and Bridget talks a lot around the pain points, and we need to continuously challenge ourselves. I liked what the Deputy Minister said when she was opening, to say, as the leaders, as the politicians, how do they look at the pain points of South Africa and design for them? And each and every one of you, let's really challenge ourselves. Are we really designing for the pain points of our clients, or are we designing for the solution that we believe we need to have out in market and be able to drive? And to what extent are we close to or intimate with the pain points of our customers and the clients that we have? And I think, Vanessa, this is where I want to bring you in. You have two teams, consumer, private clients, and small businesses who come to you with a list of requirements around, this is what our clients want. Can you create products that make magic? What are some of the things that you consider around driving inclusivity? And maybe even share with us some of the examples around products that are out there that are driving inclusivity. What barriers did they need to break or shake to be able to ensure that they are quite inclusive?
Thanks for that, Lizzie. My internal customers here really keep me on my toes. They're really demanding, but rightly so. So at NEDBANK, we believe money well managed can really make a difference to people's lives and help them achieve the right products and services, help them achieve the right financial prosperity. And Lizzie, you touched on, true financial inclusion. And a lot of people think that a bank account is really being financially included, but that's just being banked. I mean, you can still be really underbanked and not have the right products and solutions for you. So for us, It's really important, and my colleagues here spoke about the deep client insights, is really truly understanding your customer. Even in the product development and building the product, we really immerse ourselves in the lives of our clients, right? So we talk about human-centered design, and that extends to every part of our design and development process, and to ensure that we really hold ourselves accountable for the quality of the product and the solution that meets our clients' needs. I think when we talk about the type of products, beyond a bank account, access to credit, and that's always top of mind for everyone when we talk about being financially included. Products like insurance as well is really critical and key, and access to savings and investments. And if you really want to talk about things like alleviating poverty, getting out of that cycle, having wealth creation or that financial kind of prosperity is quite important, having access to savings and investments. But that's sometimes always easier said than done. So when we look at designing for some of our products, some of the critical things we think about is access. So how easy is it for our clients or intended customers to have access to our products and solutions, to not only acquire them, but very importantly, utilize them. And not in the way we think that they should utilize them, in the way that they need it utilized. And I think it's really important when we immerse ourselves in our customers to understand what that means, living the day-to-day lives of our customers. So when we talk about access, it's things like distribution. So expecting them to come into a physical branch is firstly costly, really not acceptable in this day and age. So as much as we want to have digital processes, and I'll talk about digital, but still physical can be important and a complementary service. So we do think about our physical infrastructure, but in very new formats, rather than the traditional formats. We also think about the extension of that distribution through key partnerships. And the thing about financial inclusion is we cannot achieve this just on our own. We really have to collaborate with key partners, whether it's telcos, whether it's retailers. So really how we extend those services in some of our retail partnerships as well to extend our distribution and access. We know cash is really expensive, but the market still requires access to cash. And this is where we leverage those kind of retailer relationships as well. Then we talk about technology, and technology is always top of mind in digitizing and digital literacy and financial literacy through digitization. So we think about that kind of concepts and ensuring that our channels are easy to understand and easy to use. But also when we think about digitization in terms of literacy. So I think really understanding the extent of digital literacy and supporting our clients through that journey, but also taking them in really small steps that makes them comfortable. And that talks to some of the elements of trust. So I think technology is a huge enabler, but something that we have to really be responsible about and go on that journey with clients in stages. Lizzie mentioned cost, and that's always when we talk about financial viability, but really when we think about financial inclusion and designing it, it's really understanding the cost of that solution to the customer, not just in what it would cost them to interact with them, but how much it would cost them to acquire that solution as well. And that's really top of mind for us. You will find at NEDBANK we have made channels like our app free to access. And that means that clients don't require data to do that. So it shouldn't be a barrier to be able to access that technology, to be able to interact with your product and solution. Also, we're ensuring that some of the pricing of our products is really key, and ensuring that we can make some of those really cost effective, especially when we think digitally, a lot of those transactions can be free. So that's really about some of the product design, but we really extend it as well to consider it in an ecosystem. So a customer doesn't just use your product in a vacuum. It's really to understand how they connect with your product and who else is engaging with them in that ecosystem, and ensuring that every part of the ecosystem connects so that they can utilize your product and services within that. So how would they use your product in a retailer? How would they use it with an employer? So really extending that into the entire value chain rather than thinking about it as a point solution into a vacuum. I think just some of the examples that we can reference.
Yeah, it's important to show examples to say,
Exactly.
to show proof what we're talking about.
Okay, so all of this talk and let's see how we've proven it. So definitely when we think about digital and mobile wallets, so we have a product called Mobi Money, which is so simple and easy to take up. It's within possibly under a minute. If you're really fast on your phone through USSD with no documentation, something as simple as an ID, you can get a mobile wallet and you can utilize that immediately. And that's really cool and awesome. But that means that it's still very basic. So if you really want to engage in some of our extended products, like our transactional product, you can open while you're sitting here, easily under 5 minutes, no documentation required, no visit to a branch, and you can have your card delivered to you. And this is not just for our more affluent clients, this is really for all our clients. So really the ease of accessing those products. The other element we talk about is some of the savings and investments. And in our transactional products, we have something called a savings pocket. And normally, in your savings and investment, the higher your balances, the higher your interest rate, right? And it can be really demotivating for individuals to get to a specific threshold. What we've done in our savings pockets to help our customers save is we've done reverse pricing on those tiers. So the lower the balance you have, actually the higher your interest. And this is really to help people encourage on those lower value kind of deposits and encourage them to then move it into more formal products. So, yeah.
Awesome, thanks. I like how you talk about designing for access. When you design a product, also think around accessibility of it, and we'll come to that, the role of digital. How have we as banks or as financial services thought about the role of digital in creating that access and also reducing the cost for our clients? So, Nozi, let's come to you.
Yes, ma'am.
The people keep saying banks don't give you money. You need to prove that you have money before they can give you money. And it's a saying that goes around.
Yeah.
And we do know that that's not necessarily true, right? So what will be great to hear from you is, what are you doing in the credit space, credit management space, to ensure we design for inclusivity? What are some of the aspects that are critical? What are some of the considerations that needs to be made when we think of, I think Graham earlier on mentioned that we use credit reports to penalize people rather than as an enabler. What are some of the things that you're doing in your world that pushes and drives for inclusivity?
Yeah. Lizzie, thank you so much, and a big thanks for the invite. I think credit is a key topic for us as NEDBANK. One, we believe that if you do get it right, you can create an inclusive environment when it comes to credit for all South Africans. I say this because the myth out there is that banks love you only in certain times, in the good times. But I sit here saying that we as NEDBANK, because we believe that truly, as financial experts who do good, we are also able to support you in the tough times. What we are seeing from a credit perspective is that research does show that most South Africans spend about 75% of their net income just on debt. This tells us that
does that resonate? 75% of...
They won't nod. Remember, we are all South Africans, so you won't get a response. Yeah, we don't want to reveal secrets here, right? What we do know, Lizzie, and I've been privileged that I've been in the bank, in NEDBANK specifically, for close to 20 years now, having been exposed to different types of clients, whether the affluent, small business, the entry-level market client in Bizana, or irrespective of where they are, irrespective of qualifications, not a lot of clients understand how to manage money. A lot of people, even as we sit here, don't even know how much they pay on bank charges. So when it comes to credit, you get your first job, your first letter of employment, you're excited to get that car. A lot of us don't even go through the terms and conditions. We sign up because I need to go with my friends and families that have arrived. And as a result, we end up making very irresponsible financial decisions. So we as NEDBANK believe that, one, if you are going to take control of a financial life, both in the short and long term, important that you understand the three key drivers of credit. The first one is affordability. I didn't say you qualify, I said affordability. Because a lot of us take up a loan or a debt because we as a bank say you qualify. Qualify doesn't mean I afford. Because when there is an interest rate increase or a petrol hike, you then are in financial trouble, right? And again, that's what I'm saying, that this is not even about your education levels. These are basic things that a lot of us have not been exposed to. The second one is around security, or what we also call collateral. Very important, whether on the business side or on the individual side, if you are going to apply for credit or you want to continue to have access to credit, that you ensure that you build up security of some sort, so that the bank has confidence that you are equally committed to the loan agreement that we're about to enter into. The third one is maintaining a good payment profile. Sure, customers are interesting, eh? Clients are interesting, especially now in this very tough macroeconomic environment that we find ourselves in. A lot of us, we sit here, we suffer one from the procrastinator effect when it comes to maintaining a good payment profile. So you know how it is, eh? You miss that one payment, you sort of wait and see who's going to jump up first. Is it Liberty or is it NEDBANK? Yeah, I know we laugh. It's a nervous type of laugh, right? Because we do that a lot. We procrastinate, and you keep saying, I'll pay them at a point in time. Or I can just miss one payment. I've been with the bank for 5 years, so it should not be an issue. The risk is that one payment becomes 2 missed payments. And then 2 missed payments, and then life happens, you need to attend to some sort of an emergency. Guess what? 2 missed payments becomes a lifetime of financial distress. The other one that is key critical around just how we're maintaining finances is, Lizzie, a lot of us, as much as we run businesses, you have an income statement and a balance sheet, we don't have the same for ourselves as individuals. So you take up a loan, you are not first and foremost identify whether it's good debt or bad debt. You are taking up credit because we've given it to you. Instead of saying, actually, how does this enable my balance sheet? And when I take up a loan from any financial institution, does it enable me to grow my balance sheet? Does it also enable me to generate additional income? So don't just take up credit just for the sake of doing it. So we as NEDBANK, we believe that by staying very close to our customers, from the time that we onboard, we take on a product all the way until life is tough, we are able to actually propose a couple of solutions that customers can do. So what we are finding is, like I said, if you've got the procrastinator, you've got the ostrich effect. A lot of us just bury our heads in the sand. You have all these phone calls, we phone you around about 8 o'clock when you know that you're at home, you're sitting with your family, you ignore us. We are not going to go away. So the best thing you can do for yourself, we'll call you on the public holiday, Saturday at a Shisayama, we will call you. In fact, we even have mobile legal agents. We will go out, we will go out and find you. The best thing to do is before it gets tough, before it's too late, reach out to us. Approach us and say, listen, at a point in time, I could afford the Range Rover. Right now, I can't. Because by ignoring us, the problem is not going to go away. We as NEDBANK have a few options that we offer customers that are in financial distress, because we actually want you to help you to keep your home, believe it or not. We want you to be able to keep your car. We don't want you to be embarrassed, right? So we've got a couple of options. One, we say we've got multiple arrangements that we can put in place to ensure that you are able to help you to keep your asset. We also have what we call moratoriums, also known as payment holidays, where you are able to say, look, I need a bit of a breather, 2-3 months, because I've got a bit of a challenge, or I've just lost my job. I've got a big payment that's coming up later on. We are also able to help you even do a voluntary disposal of an asset. And again, don't wait until it's too late, because what I find, because I am a mother and a sister and an aunt and a neighbor, people only come to us when it's too late. Only when the house is being auctioned, then they say, Nosy, do you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody? Whilst actually, at the point where you already see that life is about to get tough, we encourage you to please contact us through our call center. We are able to rehabilitate you as customers. I mean, I'm very pleased, Lizzie, that through the new division that we've set up, which is called Client Debt Management Recoveries, where we've created a center of excellence just around how we can rehabilitate customers whilst we manage the overall credit loss ratio for the bank. We managed to help about 1.9 million customers to rehabilitate financially. We've managed, and I'm talking this year, we've managed to help about 8,000 of our customers to keep their homes. about 80,000 vehicles. So these are stats that we are very proud of, that we're not out there just to get the money and then leave you to dry. We actually want you to be able to take control of your financial life so that ultimately you continue to determine what success is going to look like.
Wow, I like that. 1.9 million that have been
We have
rehabilitated.
rehabilitated, absolutely.
And that talks to inclusivity, right? To say when you don't have the means, how do you get enabled? How do you get equipped?
Correct.
To ensure that you have the means? And some of you may be asking yourself, say, why are we talking about these basic things? We are seeing the statistic to say, as leaders,
Yes.
the leaders, the executives,
Yes.
are actually the ones who are playing the ostrich effect.
Correct.
We don't take the responsibility. There's still that shame that I spoke about, to say not being able to pay your money these days is not a shame.
Correct.
We know what the economic environment is all about. And when we talk about inclusivity, I always even tell my friends to say, guys, when you don't pay your loan, remember it's someone else's deposit that they trusted the bank with. And we need to generate interest for them so that they get their money back. So start thinking about it, to say there's a person behind this money. It's just not money that comes from a bank. And I think it's an implore to the leaders in the room to say, when we're thinking of designing for inclusivity, it also includes our behavior.
Correct.
How we behave and manage our money. How that then impacts the whole ecosystem. I think the colleagues in the room, I think FNB is here, ABSA is here, the level of impairments that we are suffering as a country is quite huge. And we know that when the country is in debt, we do not see economic growth. So there's an indirect impact. And also the financial health monitor that we did showed that there's a relationship between financial health, physical health, mental health, work productivity. So even when you employ people, if people don't have good financial health, it affects their ability to perform at work. And we're more than happy to, Dr. Nick, we're more than happy to share the NEDBANK Financial Health Monitor study that we did to just assess the financial health of South Africans and the impact that it's having on our economy. Hence, as a bank, and I think overall as an industry, we say, let's drive and push for financial health of people. And financial health is another means of financial inclusivity that we're thinking about. So in closing, I think we have about 8 minutes of closing. I just want to know, what are some of the top of mind things that you need to leave the leaders in the room to consider as they design solutions and products for their clients to ensure that there is inclusivity? And also, what do you think that future should look like? I'll give you each 2 minutes each, because I don't want Tracy on the stage to cut us from a time perspective. Bridget, can we start with you?
Sure. No, thanks, Lizzie. I think for me, a message to the leaders really, and I think when I started talking about how we design our CVPs, I think leaders today need to be client obsessed. And I think we need to do a lot more in ensuring that we understand the customers, we understand what the pain points for customers, what customers are going through. And I think the earlier presentation, I think somebody spoke to the rear view, like, you can't be a rear view leader. And I think I want to take it a bit further, that, I like using the analogy of the rear view and the windscreen, the windshield. I think there's a reason why the windscreen is bigger than the rear view. So while we look at what has happened in the past, we need to also be really obsessed in terms of, the future, because I think the future that we are headed for is actually now. And I think for me, really, it's around making sure that while you look in the past, be obsessed around, how can you manage the client needs in the moment, anticipate, the customer needs. And, I think inclusivity should not just be a lip service, but I think it should be something that we need to walk the talk when we talk about inclusivity. Thanks.
Thanks, Bridget. Vanessa?
Yeah, I think just following on from Bridget is, how do we learn from the past? And we've had people share about, fail fast, fail forward, but really, reflect on some of our learnings and build on that. I think a lot of people mentioned things like AI, data. And I think absolutely leveraging that. I mean, not just talking about it, but actually enhancing or tapping into the power of data and the insights, whether it's really understanding affordability, credit, and all of those aspects. The power of data is really, amazing. I think when we think about some of the future innovation, we talk about in banking, open banking, and the opportunities that those kind of innovations bring to us, and just opening out the ability for people to access broader financial services and also have more choice. The benefit of or the power in financial inclusivity is giving people access to more choice and better solutions for them rather than boxing them in. And I think just, for me, the last thought is this can be quite a daunting challenge and something that seems impossible. But if we do this as a collective with collaboration and partnership, we can definitely make a difference to people's lives. Thanks.
Awesome. We are open for partnerships. If you want to partner with us to design for inclusivity, we are open for that. Tracy?
I think for me, I think as leaders, we are forced to be taskmasters. So we spend so much time in the doing. We jump to the doing. We don't sit in the problem. We don't think deeply about problems. We just want to solve things, get tasks going. And I think there are times for that. But I think when we're talking about some of the things we're talking about, without really sitting in an uncomfortable problem, thinking it through with our capabilities, what makes sense for our organization, we may just be knee-jerking because the boss above needs an answer. So I just want to challenge us all to sit in your uncomfortable problems, think them through, and challenge your own mindset. What is my default mindset? Is it to get this done, or is it to get it done? Even in a lending environment, what is the mindset? Are we here to lend, or are we here to not lend? As a bank, are we here to really make a difference, or are we not? And challenge your own mindset. What is your default mindset? And bring that into this kind of uncomfortable space. And then you'll really start, I think, thinking through the scope and the front end of the problem, as opposed to jumping into the doing and the ticking the tasks and maybe missing the opportunity to fundamentally change something in your organization.
Love that. Challenge. Like we challenged the status quo today. I mean, we were quite clear to say, how do we start doing things differently and challenging the narrative that's out there? Nozi, especially you with your new role and the role of credit management in enabling people for the future.
Yeah, so I think for me, two themes that are very important, Lizzie, is one, we've spoken a lot around AI and data analytics. The challenge is, how do you use that to start identify a customer's propensity to default? So instead of waiting until they've missed that first payment, how do I as a bank use digital and AI to almost identify that before you even get into trouble? And then certainly from a design perspective, and as much as there's, a lot of work on technology, AI and digital, let's not underestimate the power of human-centered leadership. I always say, this is a stolen quote that says, treat people like they make a difference, and they probably will. Never, ever, ever underestimate the power of taking your people along with you on the journey. Thank you.
Wow. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you got some nuggets around how you start deliberating and thinking about designing for inclusivity. As Nozi said, at NEDBANK, we say be the difference that impacts the world. And please be the leaders that impacts the world. Thank you very much. And that's it from us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
TM Global Media, going beyond borders.